Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and everyone is buying the Nergal, or at least a lot of people aren't buying it. They're hopefully getting it for free inside the Halloween game mode. If you're a decent player and you've gone on Discord, you found yourself a good group, you've been able to get yourself this tank in probably between about 6 to 10 hours, which is possibly the fastest you've ever had a chance to be able to get a tier 8 premium tank in World of Tanks where it actually hasn't cost you any money. It's crazy to think how fast you could, and you've still got a few hours left, be able to get the Nergal compared to a mission marathon, for example, like the Grommet or the ones before, which took even very good players at least 40, 35 or 40 hours to be able to get. So the Nergal is still available for the rest of the day, and today I'm going to be hopefully answering a few questions for everyone who's still sitting on the fence thinking like, should you make either that final push, or alternatively, should you actually buy a few of the keys to be able to get this tank? So firstly, let me clarify. Buying this tank with keys is really expensive. If you haven't played this event at all, and for some reason after seeing this tank it looks like it's going to be the one that you really want to play, then you're best to just buy the RH, what is it called, the M48 Rampanzer package. If you haven't played the event at all, that should give you enough keys, I believe, to be able to skip everything. However, the most sensible players out there have done at least Nightmare completion and at least Wave 5 Last Stand, and then bought the rest of the keys using gold. And if you've done that, it's still been expensive, but it still hasn't been like outrageously expensive to be able to get this tank. I think it was something like 10,000, 15,000 gold. It's still expensive, but that's for people who don't want to play the event at all. For everyone else, it was kind of just grind through normal game mode and just do your dailies if people didn't want to do what was the sensible option, which was Last Stand. And as I showed you in a video pretty much now like a couple weeks ago, if you play well with a team, you can get roughly about 14 keys, 13, 14 keys every, say, 12 minutes. The best time I had inside the Last Stand game mode was actually more like 840. So with a decent team, you could in theory be grinding out stage 5 or phase 5 of the Last Stand every 10 minutes, which would allow you to do it 6 times an hour, which in theory would allow you to get about 70 keys per hour, and you only needed about 350 or so. So you could do it all in about 5 hours, albeit you'd have to have a group that would not take a break in 5 hours and play very sweaty to be able to get it. So for everyone who's sitting on the fence with the Nergal, when I got this tank on my main account, and I did use some gold to be able to do it on my main, but on my free-to-play account, I'm actually going to be unlocking it today completely for free, as the account would probably suggest, right? So what do I think about this tank? It's just like I said in my tank review. Inside a nice matchup, this vehicle is very good indeed. As long as you use the tracks to be able to hide the lower plate and come around a corner without side scraping. You don't want to side scrape in this tank, you just want to wedge those tracks around the front and bait people into shooting them or trying to shoot your lower plate through them. And then if you do that, as long as you use the right kind of ammunition, we just bounced a gold round there from the front, and that has 300 millimeters of pen, then you can just, in an ideal scenario where you're just going down a street here and nobody can shoot you in the side, this tank is monstrous for making push plays. Now, do I think it's like the new best tier 8 heavy tank? No, not even close. It's a good premium heavy. It's a good premium heavy. And considering that it's been free effectively for like the easiest mission marathon or easiest event of all time in World of Tanks, I'd say, I think this is actually a really good heavy tank for players who have invested the time into. And so if you're sitting on the fence and you're thinking like, I could get Nightmare done today, could get phase 5 today, and I've got a few keys lying around, how many stages would it cost me? Would I spend like 5,000 gold worth of keys on this tank? That's going to be about 100 keys, I think. I think that's only like 100 keys you get for 5,000 gold. Probably I'd pick this thing up. But you must know how to play it as well with regards to everything that I said inside my tank review. The real downside to this tank is that as soon as you get it into a bad matchup, that armor on the front doesn't really work. And then you're going to have to spam gold, and even if you spam gold, you've only got 252 millimeters of pen, and the standard rounds are 215 on this tank. Now, that's not awful. It's still kind of usable, but it's definitely not great. And so this is really where the tank just falls down altogether when it gets into bad matchups. However, as I showed in my tank review, it can still do well if it plays reasonably intelligently against tier 10 tanks. Spoilers, I'm not going to get any more out of this game. I'm going to miss the turtle there, which I was quite angry about. And then I'm going to miss the turtle here. And I was worried because this is my first go at getting an ace tanker in the vehicle. Spoilers, yeah, I think 5,800 combined and 4 kills was enough for an easy ace in this tank. The real surprising thing about the Nergal is how good this thing is with regards to its 10 degrees of gun depression. And so while the vehicle's fabulous for just going down, you know, the narrow streets of Erlenberg and just keeping all of the fighting frontal, the vehicle's fairly proficient as well for when you get on big undulating hill bushy maps like Muravanka. Now, it's not good at being kind of like a scout inside the bushes. I'm not suggesting the bushes help, but just these kind of like these ridge lines, any opportunity that you have to go hold down in this vehicle. And then all this tank is really lacking is the penetration. And I think people get very surprised by the Nergal and its 2,000 base damage per minute, which when you improve it with a gun rammer on this build, I wouldn't recommend using vents on this tank because I think that you really need to improve that rate of fire for some kind of all-in capacity. Then yeah, this thing actually just claps. And then even, you could argue, very good tanks like an IS-3A or 252U here, you feel like you're able to pressure them. Unfortunately, not able to really handle the pressure from a 50 TP round going in through the front when I'm not using those big tracks to be able to protect it, right? So this tank is already, even though it's only been available for 2 weeks, already more popular than any other tier 8 heavy tank. Well, just nearly. Soon it's going to overtake the Skoda T56 as the most played heavy. Now, obviously that's because it's new, and when a tank is new, everybody's going to jump out and be able to play it, especially considering how easy this vehicle was to get. So a lot of people will have got this tank way more than you would expect. So I do think that we'll see these things in the matchmaker for a long time. But considering it's only been out for 2 weeks, and those statistics all take into account 30 days of the Skoda T56 being played, then this Nergal, it's probably going to end up with at least 400 to 500,000 battles when it's kind of like 30-day reset period resets, or I would say it's 30-day rotation period resets after it's been out for 30 days. You can see here this 10 degrees of gun depression, it does feel nice. The only thing I will mention is that because the tracks do stick out so far, they do have kind of a little bit of a, should we say, an incline with the way the track goes up. But these tracks, they're kind of annoying in a way because it stops you from being able to fully crest the ridgeline when you get up the top of it. So it's kind of good when 10 degrees of gun depression is enough over the side from this kind of an angle, but when you actually want to use it over the front, it does get a little bit awkward because these tracks stop the front of the tank from depressing. So, while they're very useful for parrying filthy casuals from ramming the Nergal, as I showed in my tank review of this vehicle, it basically doesn't take any ramming damage from the front if you manage to use the tracks to be able to parry your opponents. And oh, it does do a lot of ramming damage to them even with those tracks, as the collision created still damages the enemy tank. Apart from if it's Nergal versus Nergal, that wouldn't really work very well. But they're not very useful for being able to kind of like crest a ridgeline here in this kind of a scenario, and you end up just feeling a little bit awkward. But with 10 degrees of gun depression, you really can't worry too much about that. So what do I think about the long-term prospects for the Nergal? And when you're going to be able to get your hands on this tank in the future? Well, the Obsidian wasn't actually sold, I don't believe, until the Halloween event just happened now. So that was a whole year that you didn't have an opportunity to get an Obsidian. But I'd be very surprised if Wargaming don't sell the Nergal again. I just think it's going to probably be a year before you have an opportunity to get your hands on this. So is it like a must-have tank in World of Tanks? No, I don't think it's a must-have tank in World of Tanks, not even close. I think you'd rather have a Skoda T56, you'd rather have a BZ176, yada yada yada. There's so many heavies that are just as good, if not more competitive than this tank. So it's definitely not a must-have tank. But for a vehicle that has been so easy to be able to get for free, I have to admit, it's a pleasure to for free-to-play players to have been able to get their hands on this tank, and I think it was and still is a real good opportunity. So how do I feel about them from like a balance of the matchmaker perspective? Do I think that they're overpowered and they're toxic to play against? Well, when I'm playing a tier 6 or a tier 7 tank, probably yes. If I'm in a tier 6, I'm going to have to load gold and try and not get two-shot by it, or try and get it side and probably mostly load gold. Well, that's probably a bit of an overstatement, but it's the armor on the side of this tank is quite well angled, so if you don't get it from an angle like this, it's actually pretty tricky to be able to handle. So I think like tier 6 and tier 7 tanks are really going to struggle, but when I'm playing my tier 8s, my 9s, and my 10s, oh, these things do start to look a lot more juicy, because they lumber, right? It's not fast. Even when you're using a turbo on this tank, it's still not able to go above 30, even with the engineering skill. So it's not exactly able to get away from you, and it's not really able to get towards you very quickly as well. It'd be like one of those comedy films where you're on the train tracks and you're going, no, and yeah, you get what I'm saying. It's not going to come at you very fast. You'd have to kind of let it. You'd have to have not much will to live to let the Nergal kind of chase you down within that regard. So I don't think it's toxic for the matchmaker. I think it's a fun tank. I think it's balanced. The only problem is for tier 6 and tier 7s, any tank that is slow but has decent armor is a little bit of a beast to have to deal with. So all in all from me, I think the Halloween game mode from Wargaming, I think this was probably the best reward and the best game mode that they've ever done, in my humble opinion. I thought Last Stand was really fun. I'd like to see them next year increase Last Stand and be able to allow it to go further and further, you know, stage 6, 7, 8, allow the keys to be able to increase. There's one thing I must say though. Any of you who watched my original video on Last Stand, where I showed me completing Phase 5 on day 1 and made a video on it and showed how many keys I got, I think I got 17 keys. The day after, with absolutely no message from Wargaming, they nerfed the keys, the better player, well, they nerfed the keys from Phase 5, down from 17 to 14. So in theory, if you had grinded it, on day 1, you would have been able to probably get the Nergal if you're a very good player in like maybe about 4 hours. Probably you could have got the Nergal in about 4 hours of proper grinding, because you could have got near enough about 80 keys an hour, and you only needed about 400 to be able to complete it. So yeah, you probably could have done it about like 4 or 5 hours, roughly. So wow, so shame on you Wargaming for nerfing the keys and also not having the balls to admit that you did so. You should have at least come out with a message. You should have told the community the key farm is too good. We're going to nerf it because people are getting Nergals too quickly. We've made it so that Phase 5 completion gives too much. And if they had done that, or at least given the community a warning that they were going to do it and say, hey, at this date, we're going to nerf the key grind, then players would have been able to invest that time to be able to either finish the grind off or just to give players an opportunity who maybe have a life to actually invest time to save themselves time in the future. Blizzard did this recently with the release of their War Within expansion. Originally, it was for the first few days of the expansion, and quite controversially because people had pre-access, everyone who had pre-access could be able to take advantage of this. It was easier to level at the very start, and people were getting to the new level cap, which I can't remember what it was. Is it 70 now? Let me know in the comments down below. People were getting to the new level cap too quickly. And so Blizzard then said that they're going to nerf the amount of time that it takes to be able to get to the new level cap, as leveling was too quick. And when something's too quick, it's unsatisfying, right? It's not like you're doing the same thing again and again and again, at least at the start of an expansion in World of Warcraft, right? Whoa, what a kill there. Get out. That's an HE shell, I believe, against the T30. Beautiful stuff. I'm in it to win it here. This game is razor close. But what Blizzard did is they said, we are going to apply this patch in 24 hours. And so that gave everyone an opportunity to still take advantage and not to feel so bitter that it was nerfed without any announcement. So Wargaming, shame on you that you didn't admit that you were nerfing the keys. Shame on you as well for not telling the player base that you were going to change the keys so that people could be able to make use of their time to invest into either at least knowing it was going to happen or knowing the reasoning behind it. A sneaky stealth key nerf, especially after content creators like me got unrealistic expectations as to how long the event would take. How am I meant to do my job to actually be able to recommend the community about how long it's going to take to get something if you change the goalposts without telling me or telling anyone? Shame on you, Wargaming. Now with that all said and done, and I still think Wargaming could save face by at least acknowledging to myself and to the other content creators that yes, they did nerf the keys, and B, give a reason for it, and C, say that they're going to have improved communication going forwards. All in all, the event's been great. Like 95% perfect, apart from that one little blemish that hopefully somebody from Wargaming can try and improve upon. And I really hope that Wargaming keep doing events like this, where there are tier 8 tanks to collect that aren't requiring you to spend 30, 40, 50 hours. And I really hope that Wargaming got a lot of players back into the game to get the Nergal or a few reactivations in that way. Because I think that people would be willing to invest, you know, like 10 hours, maybe 20 hours to be able to get a tank over a period and really enjoy the Halloween game mode rather than trying to force people to play for kind of like 40 or 50 hours to get a tank, which I don't think is reasonable or feasible. And it's just unrealistic. Now everyone's pretty much got tier 8 premiums for free from the Bond store. I don't think Wargaming need to put tier 8 premiums behind such a play wall, is my opinion. Alright, so the Nergal in this game, considering they were playing against tier 10 tanks, this is a great result here. 4 kills, 4,400 combined. It's been a solid round of World of Tanks. But this game is neck and neck. And we've got a tricky job now of having no light tanks and no medium tanks. And yet there are 3 sneaky tank destroyers on the enemy team that we're going to have to dig out. Luckily, the Nergal actually has phenomenal HE rounds on this vehicle as well, with 500 alpha. So your alpha goes from 350 up to 500. I love it when you're getting pretty much like 40% damage from penning an HE shell. And yeah, trust me, when you're hitting these shells pretty much every 8 seconds with a gun rammer and a premium consumable for 500, yeah, you don't need much. Talk about don't need much, man, this game just got absolutely ugly. I'm not sure that one hit as we saw it hit the dirt, right? So the Scorpion fells the Tiger Mouse. Another vehicle has fallen as well. And it's now me, a Gorilla, and a T-28 prototype trying to dig out 3 tank destroyers at the end of the game. So we have Sabuk, who's saying, wait for me, and I will. Okay, Sabuk, good communication. I will wait for you. Make your way along the south. We've still got 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm just praying that we can be able to dig out the TDs. But as you can see from this kind of a scenario, they could literally be absolutely anywhere. Which bush is it? This bush, that bush, this bush, that bush, this bush, maybe that bush, maybe it's cousin Bush over here, possibly grandfather Bush who's sitting at the back looking miserable at the fact that we're so long into this game. Possibly. Who knows? As the T-28 makes their way along the southern flank, and hopefully they're going to push in and be able to light up some of the TDs. I tell the T-28, Sabuk, I will help you. Don't stop. Please push. So I ping the map to hopefully get him to go. And I ask him, can you push? Inquisitive. It's not a demand, but it's more of a question. And hopefully they're going to continue. They can take a hit, most likely 2 hits, possibly not 3 hits, depending on the tank that manages to hit them. If the UDES hits them 3 times and they low roll, possibly. But now with 1 minute and 20 seconds on the game, finally, I spot the Gorilla who seems to have pushed out to try and win. And we're going to go HE shell. Whoa, yeah, 488. And we even bounce a gold round from the Scorpion there. Beautiful stuff. And now, maybe there's a chance. As Dennis is... Are these all Pokemons? You know, if we've got Dennis and Sabuk on our team, I don't even know what's going on. But what I do know is that I bounce another gold round there from the Scorpion, put a 483 damage shell into them. I can take a shot from the UDES, but luckily another gold round gets absorbed by my tank. Boom, baby, 434 into the Scorpion, and because I know where the UDES hit me, I know exactly where they are, and I've got to hit his lower plate with an HE shell to be able to finish him off, and oh yeah, with 38 seconds left on this game, and a huge ending with 4 HE shells going in on the trot. 7 kills apiece. This is a monster game of World of Tanks. So high caliber here, Top Gun for those 7 kills, and a steel wall for managing to block 5,200 damage. We make ourselves 92,000 credits profit as we didn't fire that much gold, and this was 1,860 base experience. So all in all, the Nergal, I think this has been a fabulous Halloween event. This is a good tank. It's not a great tank, but it's a good tank. And good luck to all of you who are either trying to finish it off today or alternatively thinking about getting out the credit card to buy some gold to be able to get those final few keys. And as I've been saying throughout, the easiest way to be able to get through this event is to get on my Discord server, find like-minded individuals to complete Nightmare together or to grind Last Stand. So good luck getting your final keys. I really hope this video has been useful if any of you are sitting on the fence. If it was, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know what you think about the Nergal in the comments down below. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Friday, I'm going live all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby with brand new token drops. So come and grab your final few pumpkins and then spend them on some epic 3D styles in the store. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic and hopefully I'll see you soon.